you guys this week. We have an interview. We did get scooped by ESPN, which unfortunately does happen when you're going against one of the biggest, I guess the biggest name in sports, right? So we do have Josh. We have Josh Steele Nissan joining us. We'll bring him in just a moment. There he is, the man himself, fresh out of the hair gel tub. And you know what? I'm happy to have you along. Steele, how you feeling?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you.
I'm doing very well. First of all, I have to give you a big congratulations for signing to 100 Thieves. We have lots to talk about, but I first wanted to give a little bit of a background of how I know Steele. We met in California back in 2017 when you were doing analyst work for PUBG, of all games. I want to hear about the PUBG days and how close were we to seeing Steele in a professional PUBG uniform, also known as a white plain T-shirt with a stenciled marker on the back.
Well, the PUBG days, yeah, it was after playing like Overwatch and didn't really like that. Still banned from Counter-Strike, so I was playing a lot of PUBG, and I actually found it really fun, and I enjoyed streaming it a lot. I was almost doing like 24-hour impromptu streams just because I enjoyed the game so much, and I don't know why. Like the game was pretty buggy and bad and everything, but it was new, it was fresh, it was exciting. Getting into those like top 10, top 5 situations, getting to the end game was really fun. I was grinding at the leaderboards. I was in the top 10 of the leaderboards for a few months in a row, and that was kind of enjoyable. But I wanted to satisfy that competitive itch, so I was, trying to see if I could put a team together, and I ended up playing with the people who had then become the EG roster, but that's when unbans from ESL and then DreamHack started coming out. I'm like, okay, I'm going back to CS. Bye.
See you later.
See ya. Yeah.
I completely understand. Well, I think you made the right choice because now you finally landed yourself in Valorant, and personally, I couldn't be happier for you. You just had a big interview with ESPN about all the iBuyPower stuff, so I don't really want to talk about that today. I'm sure you're tired of talking about that shit as well. So as far as your move to Valorant is concerned, I wanted to know. I want to ask the fan questions first. So 100 Thieves, that was where you've landed, but I want to know how close was T1 Steel? Was that ever on the table?
They offered me,
Oh,
but sorry, I don't know who specifically from T1 offered me. My agent said there's an offer from T1, but I've tried it before. Like we played on iBuyPower together, myself, AZK, Swag, Skadoodle, and then again in CS:GO just a couple of years ago, even
Torque,
like early 2018. Torque GX, yeah, I played with Swag and AZK again there, and it just doesn't work out. And it would be silly to think like, okay, third time's a charm. It didn't work out because we have different like in-game philosophies, different personalities. We're just different, and it's not a bad thing. It's just not meant to be. And yeah, and to like kind of live this nostalgic thing, to be like, oh, bring back iBuyPower 2014. It's like, well, I was also on the way to leave the team then for the exact same reasons that the team didn't work out in 2018. So why in 2020 is it going to work? I don't see that. So to me, it was never really an option, just because I feel like I wouldn't be joining them or whatever for the right reasons. It would just be like a storyline nostalgia piece, as opposed to like, I really think that this is going to work out this time.
Right. And I think that was, as a fan, and that's why I label as a fan question when you kind of look at the pieces. And I guess I look at you as a player as a pure, like if there is a, like, in the sense of there's pure point guards in basketball who do all the passing, you're a pure IGL in my mind. Would you agree with that statement? Do you consider yourself an IGL first?
I do have a lot of IGL qualities, but I don't need to be an IGL first. I think that if I see something going wrong, I'll definitely have to have my input. It's not like I'm going to sit there, watch something that I don't like and just be like, not my job. I'm not going to talk about it. So I'll definitely like interject and butt in when I need to. But, I've definitely taken the back seat on multiple teams. when I played earlier in Counter-Strike with Days, for example, I wasn't the IGL. When I first played with AZK back in CS Source on Dynamic in 2010, AZK was the in-game leader. When I played on MTW, Nookie was the in-game leader. So there are definitely parts of my career where I haven't been the in-game leader. Even on iBuyPower, parts of the time Days was the IGL, and other parts I was the IGL. So it's not like I'm always the IGL. It's just something that I do need to have like a pretty big voice if I see something that's not going well, or I have like a certain perspective. I think that my perspective is valid and it should be heard. I think everyone's perspective is valid and should be heard. I just kind of find mine to be more right than other people's, and I say, let's try it this way.
Yeah, well, we'll strip out the IG part and just say you have a leadership personality. You like to be involved in decision making and stuff like that. Which that's why I think a lot of people looked at T1 as a team that you would fit onto. Like personality, kind of stripped away in all the previous history. That team is, obviously looking for leadership, and I think that would have been an interesting fit regardless. But let's talk about 100 Thieves, because this is another team that has a bunch of IGLs on it. So I want to know the dynamic of the squad in its current form. You have Hiko, you now have Nitro and yourself. What is like the early kind of conversation sounding like from a roles perspective? What are your hopes for the first, let's say, 6 months of the squad? And what are you guys kind of looking for as far as like, how's the vibe feeling right now, just initially getting together?
The vibe with S3 is pretty good. Like, I think we're all just trying to slot into whatever roles we need to be in comfortably. I think for the most part, I'll be on the German Gadget Girl, and maybe I'll have to like flex over to Cypher or maybe another Sentinel. With Nitro and Hiko, they've swapped around between smoke characters, Sova, and also like Nitro was on Duelist, but it really depends on who the last two pieces of the puzzle are. With regards to kind of early conversations, I was speaking to Nitro a little bit when he was, the situation with him on Liquid was like, not knowing what his future was. He was kind of like looking at Valorant, is this something he wants to do type of thing. And then when he finally decided on it, he's like, yeah, like, you should come play too. I'm like, yeah, I've been weighing that option myself. It's just, timing and the offer needs to be right. And we never really sat there and talked about like roles specifically. We're just like, everyone seems to be really bad in this game. Like we could join, make a team together and just destroy everyone. And,
okay. Can we, before you continue, really quick, can we just unpack that statement real fast?
Yeah.
Everybody else is bad? Is that what I just heard?
Shit on
am I wrong though?
I'm already in love with this movie.
So hear me out. Okay, there's loads of people that have like insane mechanics, right? Like their aim is way sicker than anyone's. Like they send any of those aim maps that they click the little dots, just hours, whatever. They're insane mechanically, but they haven't grown up in like a competitive CS setting type of thing where they go the distance in tournaments. They don't understand like properly like communication and teamwork. They don't know like how to really break down the strats properly and like create like these super like interesting and creative execs. It looks very like basic level CS that I'm watching when I see Valorant. That's what I see today. And I just see so many, like, I wasn't even playing the game full time, and I'm like, why don't they use like this character this way? Like, why? Like, Killjoy is not even in the meta because her mollies got nerfed. I'm like, what? Her mollies were like just bonus to her kit. Yeah, it was just bonus. Like, she's still a sick character. And I guess I just have like a differing perspective from everyone else, but like from tournaments, it looks like people just group up and 4 people just go this place with an op leading the way. You just shift, walk around, you get that pick, and you explode. And it's like, surely that's not it, right? Surely there's more to the game.
Yeah, there's got to be something more.
Yeah,
and that was kind of the feeling we've had watching a little bit. Is the it's counter-stratting and a little bit of and that was kind of. We all agreed that this was going to be the case for the first little bit. Have you felt that like the and you can finish your point that you have in your mind, but like, do you feel that Valorant is evolving slowly in that sense?
I think yes and no. Like the people that are kind of setting the trend and setting the meta, it feels like they don't really know what to do, and they're just playing it like it's Counter-Strike with agents instead of, you know, everyone's got a smoke and everyone's got a flash, and everyone's abusing the fact that like if in Counter-Strike you're on CT side and you are playing against players that are just defaulting like 1-1-1-1-1 type of thing, you're gonna grab two ops and you're gonna punish them. And then it's going to force them to have to play together. It's going to force them to have to use flashes to clear you off angles and smokes. But this game, you have one smoke character and like one or maybe two flash characters per team. And that makes ops so much stronger. Then you combine the fact that you can play a character like Jett that can take a shot and just dash out with or without the kill, or if you get blind or double swing or whatever. You can't do that. Like in CS, if I take an aggressive angle with an op and then I miss a shot or I get flashed or whatever, if I need to jump and run away, I need a teammate there to back me up. People in this game, they're just like, yeah, I'm going to go unpunished. So first of all, you have the fact that majority of the players that are kind of on like the top teams in Valorant right now, they don't really have like a deep they were like mid-level MDL, maybe high-level MDL, and some people, maybe some players were low-level Pro League, maybe some players used to in Pro League like 4 years ago, be like a top 3 NA contender. But right now, it's just like overwhelming amount of MDL level players, low MDL, high advanced, or people that never played CS before. So you don't have like the proper, the fundamentals of this is how you can back up your teammate. These are like ways that you can play together so you can like punish this guy or so that you can back this guy up. And it's just kind of like you just go out there, you have insane aim, and you have these characters that can just get out of danger for free. It's like get out of jail free card. And people just use that and abuse it. And there's no real way to deal with it yet because people haven't figured it out. And it just seems like everyone just goes and does the same like generic, let's just go for this area, work it together, use all of our abilities, and then execute. And there's no like, just feels like people don't know how to default properly. People don't know how to like bait out the utility.
So it's all these things, all these high level skills that that you develop, and I'm going to sew you into this just because I'm a mean person, but there's a lot of people that I've kind of I know that you've kind of had an influence on that are currently in Valorant. So I'm interested to know your former teammates Sabrosa and Wardell. Do they fit into that one-dimensional camp that you're kind of describing right now? Is looking at a team like TSM that's comprised of so many of your ex-teammates? Do you think that they kind of have that same ceiling on them right now from an execution standpoint?
I haven't paid too close attention to like a strategic point of view from their team, but I could definitely see that they would abuse the fact that they're both mechanically really skilled and have more experience than I guess the rest of the competitors, barring like maybe T1, sorry, not T1, Sentinels, because Sentinels still has like a lot of players that were playing high level CS like
pretty recently.
Sure, like relatively speaking.
Yeah.
and then you had like Cloud9 has some players that kind of played bottom Pro League, top MDL type of stuff, and it's not many people that do have that. So if you're able to play a character like Jett one trick and have an op, and when you don't have an op, you have knives that throw and one shot. It's like, why do you need to have strategic depth if you can get away with this? So they're not thinking about the future of Valorant, like what am I going to do when people learn how to play against this? They're thinking about, well, no one can stop it now, so I'm just going to keep going. Stop me,
Yeah, and that's kind of my next question, is because you have this transition, and Valorant is such a unique game. And do you think that the agent and the transition from Counter-Strike to Valorant is, and to kind of go back to your previous point about how kind of simple everything is right now, is that due to the fact that people just aren't game planning for agent abilities rather than trying to counter strat or deal with like the Jett op or the Jett one trick that has been kind of ravaging the scene for so long?
It's hard to say because from my perspective, I played Counter-Strike differently than most people did too. So most people would use their smokes, for example, on CT side at a choke point, I would use it defensively and play around it. I would use it as a one-way. I would put it so I can peek left or right, and it like gives me more space. It makes it harder for them to like push into me if I'm playing in a site or any area. It makes it more difficult for them to push in at me, and I stall them, and then I can get like ratty kills. Whereas other people, they would just put it at the choke point, and they would straight up take the aim duel of people coming through the smoke at the choke point. But you know, they're not considering like, oh well, I'm going to get flashed off the angle, then they're going to come through the smoke, and then I'm going to take that duel. I don't play like that in CS, and I don't play like that in Valorant either. And I feel like not many people play CS like I play CS, and not many people play Valorant like I play Valorant. So it's hard for me to have that type of perspective. I do think that people haven't been super creative with agent abilities yet in terms of how to like secure areas, but I feel like people haven't really figured out the maps either. And it's something that I've noticed when I play, you know, in 10 mans or in pubs. I just feel like it's just so weird that they have certain agents go to certain sites as like, this is what you should do. This is how these guys do it. So you should put this guy here. Like Sova on B on Ascent. And it's like, you're going to do a full exec and rush him. What's he going to do? Throw a shock dart at you? Like, why is he there?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So I'm in. So looking forward, and all this will be my last question before I open up to my other co-casters here. Is I'm interested. Like you're talking about how you've been observing other people play and some of the things you would change. Do you feel that your identity as a Valorant player is fully formed at this stage? Are you still acclimating yourself to the game? And do you think that looking forward that you'll be bringing a lot of this stuff that you're saying is not good from other players? Are you going to be rectifying that on 100 Thieves? Are you going to be kind of leading that way and showing us some of the innovation that maybe we just haven't seen yet? I'm interested to know if you have big plans to show all of us, or if this is just more of an observation.
I'm looking to kind of bring some of that innovation to Valorant, but at the moment I am acclimating a little bit. I think I need a little bit more playtime against other teams, because so far every team I've played against has had a different style. So give me at least one more week of playing against different
week. Okay, I guess that's
partners.
Yeah,
that's enough.
Yeah,
that's enough.
No, but like I mean, like you know, we play one team and they have this style. We play another team, they have another style. We play another team, they use different composition of agents. Right. We play another team, they're really super aggressive. We play another team, they're heavy sentinels and they're really passive and slow. And you need to kind of feel out all the different styles that exist today, because the first time you play against a new style, it's going to completely destroy you if that style is better than, if that style counters your style. So you need to figure out like, okay, this is how they're doing it, and this is how we beat it. And then once you like experience it the first time, that's when you can start setting protocols and everything. And obviously, like, people can beat you and they can like change, make little variations and everything along the way. But for the most part, you need to kind of get a feel for what the style is and what the best way to play against that style is. And the first time you see that style, you might get caught off guard and lose rounds here or there. I think right now I'm at the point where I'm feeling pretty confident in the game, or comfortable. I'm getting to the point where when I play like ranked games in pubs and people don't know like where they should go with their agents, or they don't know proper rotations, and they're doing everything so like, I guess, elementary, I'm getting annoyed the same way that I got annoyed in Counter-Strike. And I'm like, I feel like that's my indicator to myself that I'm getting comfortable with the game and getting to a point where I'm no longer in the, this is new, I'm going to soak everything up like a sponge. And it's closer to my sponge is kind of wet right now. And
Steel sponge is wet right now, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we've discovered. So right. I'm glad to hear that. Hold on a second. I have a bonus question. I'm gonna give it right to you after this, I promise. But this is something that just came to me. So knowing all the things that we just learned about, you know, you got a big brain. You're going to be analyzing the game. I want to know, since you're on 100 Thieves now, where did the previous roster go wrong? If you can speak to that.
Ooh. I didn't watch the previous roster, but I'd imagine it's because they didn't have. Actually, I can't even answer that, because I kind of heard some things from, you know, Hiko or from the manager on 100 Thieves that, you know, it might muddy up what I would think versus, you know, what's part of like what they said. So I don't think it's fair to answer that question. But I could imagine it's because they came from PUBG as a big part of it, that they didn't really look at the game. I feel like the game is 80% Counter-Strike crossover, and I think that they didn't consider it to be like that and didn't want to kind of give it that sort of, what's the word? Just, oh my
Take your
God,
time,
why
baby.
am I forgetting languages?
No, it's all good. I mean, it
We
was
got all
easy to watch.
day.
It was easy
Respect,
to watch them play.
kind of.
Yeah, they didn't get it. Yeah, the
Yeah.
respect was hard, and I mean that, and they had that on as a stigma from the very, very beginning. I have my own thoughts on that, but I want to hand it over to Veli on that, unless you have something else to add.
I was just gonna say, not like the respect of the players. I'm saying like they didn't treat the game enough like it was Counter-Strike, and they treated it like
Right.
it was just an FPS.
Right.
They
Got it.
wanted to play the
Veli,
game
go
the
ahead.
way that they saw the game, the way it needed to be played. Like, I could understand that completely because I came from a lot of different FPSs, and I wanted to make Valorant my own understanding of how this game should be played compared to the way the CS guys did it. And I found out real fast I was wrong. But my first question to you still, you described playstyles of Sentinels being, real strategic, real slow. You take a look at G2, you look at TSM. If you had a dream playstyle for 100 Thieves when this roster is done and finished, what would it be? What type of team would you guys be?
I would like to be able to kind of flex between a methodical approach and an explosive approach, depending on the map, depending on what we were feeling at the time, depending on our opponents. I feel like ultimately, especially if there's more agents being added to the pool and you add more maps, and potentially if there's a lot of agents, there would be like a pick ban thing. I would imagine that people would have to flex between different agents within the same role, and you would have a lot more dynamic in that regard. So I think right now, without enough information about how what the trajectory of the game is going to go in terms of, is it going to be like, how many agents are there going to be, or is there going to be a cap to it? Is there going to be like a pick ban phase? How is that going to work in competition? I feel like it's too hard to say right now. But I would like to be able to be both methodical and explosive when we need to be.
I got you. That was a good answer. I have one more question. Sibo, you can have it, Mr. Face Clan. So Josh, I just met you. You could be the most cocky piece of shit that's ever walked this green earth. I don't know, but you seem very humble. You seem very nice. And you seem honest, and that's one thing I really love about you, right?
Get a couple drinks in them. We'll have a different discussion.
When COVID's over, we're gonna redo this interview. Looking at Sentinels, looking at TSM, looking at Cloud9 and all these other top teams in the game, do you think that their gap is that significant from first and second all the way throughout 6th, 7th, and possibly 8th? Or do you think there's still room for teams realistically catch up within the next month or so?
I think that teams will catch up, and I feel like the first 3 to 6 to 9 to 12 months of a game, when it's in its early infancy, you will see all sorts of like jumps when people figure out like, this team will use this at one tournament, it will destroy everybody. Everyone's going to see it, they're going to learn it, they're going to do it, and now that team's lost their edge. Everyone's doing what they were doing that made them so good. So what's the next thing that they do? Are they just going to play it and then try to be a little bit better doing the same thing? Or is someone going to like set the next thing, develop a new meta, or be the next innovative, like, you had the NIP era, then the Fnatic era, and the LDLC, whatever, SK era in CS. You're going to see those types of eras happening in this game as well. And it's going to be set by, partially by how a team plays the game, and then also by how the game changes with the balancing of certain agents or certain weapons or the maps, or, you have to play this character to play well, and it's banned. You have to play another duelist. You can't do Jet Up. Sorry, pick someone else. Where are you going to go? Are you going to be as good at that? Like, if you have to eco and you don't have knives to throw at people, like, what are you going to do? So I think there's going to be kind of like ebbs and flows. I think that a lot of players are going to get eclipsed shortly by other people that are just hungrier, that have more time to put in the game. Dude, there's so many unknown people I've literally never heard of that have the insane mechanics,
the organic talent.
And if they learned how to play with like proper fundamentals and teamwork, better communication, all these things, and their mechanical ability, that's just gross. But right now, like, you know, you can have any 17-year-old that can 1v1 me in an A map, and I'll probably still, like, you know, do laps around them. So
I love it. Love the confidence.
I appreciate you, man. All right, Simo, I guess
Simo, go ahead, or I'm
now, man.
Yeah, Simo, go ahead. I have more questions too, but I don't want to make you sit in the corner for the rest of the interview. So
yeah. First,
it's like the
Steel, I want
to shirt, like, poor guy. Anyway, go ahead.
First, Steel, I want to thank you for coming on. You know, giving us the Canadian advantage, 3 against 1. Sorry, Valley, it's very unfortunate in this for you, but you know, it's all good. It's all good.
It's all love,
you
baby.
pointed out, yeah.
I'm from Alberta. I don't count.
Yeah, you're kind of you're partially American there over there. You know, you mentioned something very interesting, that Valorant is 80% CS:GO. What is that other 20% to you, and how does that divvy up against other FPS titles? Like, it's obvious that there's agents and there's, you know, utility similar to Overwatch in some sense, but what is that other 20% to you?
It's just like a mix of different games. It really comes to the abilities and how you play with the abilities. So the 80% Counter-Strike is just like, it's 5 versus 5, about the same round time, same general objective, plant the spike, either A or B or C, and you play out a lot of the situations the same way. You know, it's better to go here when you see these people here. It's better to play the post plant like this, like let's peek together, or I take first contact, I have low health, you have high health, you bait me, type of thing. So a lot of that is just straight up just Counter-Strike. The other 20% is how you use your agents and how you use your abilities. And in Counter-Strike, everyone had the same agent, so to speak. You could purchase your smoke, your flashes, and your molly or HE grenade. And everything was the same. You had the same movement stuff. There's no like dashing or anything like that. So everyone had the same agent in Counter-Strike. But in this game, people have different agents. And with the different agents, you have different abilities. And then within the abilities, you have the option to play it defensively or offensively. Like, you can use Sage as kind of like a person that slows down the enemy and you use her for execs and stuff, or you can use her as like a battle sage and go aggressively and use her like a duelist. And I feel like people are looking at the agents and being like, oh, this is an initiator, he must go in first or something, or this is a duelist, they must do this, or, you know, why not have a raise that
they listen to the UI,
you know?
They're just looking at the UI like, okay, this is a duelist.
Yeah.
That's what he is.
Think Raze as a lurker and Sage as like a duelist is incredible. It's insane. But I don't know. I feel like people are limiting like the ways that they view the game for some reason. And I think that the abilities do come, you know, from whether it be MOBAs or Overwatch or Rainbow Six or whatever. I think that, you know, when you don't have abilities and you just have smokes and flashes, it's beyond that though. It's beyond that. There's different abilities rather than just smokes and flashes. I think in CS, people didn't know how to use smokes and flashes properly either. Like, there's so many players that I've seen that, you know, they're saving all their utility for like the next round or the next game or whatever. It's like, dude, you could have used your flashes in this situation for your teammate and you could have gone like 8 kills in a round, you know? And then they're just sitting there holding them with their gun out. It's like, dude, you can use your flashes, you know? You can use your smokes. And I don't know, it's just the feeling that I get that people don't really know what they're doing with, because like they didn't really know that they were doing Counter-Strike. They don't really know what they're doing with their abilities in Valorant either. And I think that's why some people that come from different gaming backgrounds or people that have played different games, like I played Counter-Strike, but I also played Warcraft 3, Starcraft 2. I played Rainbow Six. I played Overwatch, and I played, yeah, and you know,
I
played
Rainbow Six, man.
Well, not professionally, but I, you know, casually played like all of these games. You know, I didn't play StarCraft 2 professionally either, but I was master's level. So, you know, when you have like when you play in Dota 2, when you play a variety of games like this, you kind of learn things from those games, and you can bring what you learned and apply it to the game that you're currently playing. So I played Counter-Strike as a profession, but I also played a lot of PUBG, and in PUBG you learn about like patience and you learn about like approach and, you know, being methodical and stuff. And when I play Counter-Strike, then I know how to slow it down and be a lot more patient and wait for this opportunity instead of like, I'm going to send it, you know? And I think
Yeah.
being able to bring things that you learn from other games can really help you, your perspective and your ability in a different game. And that's what the other 20% is.
I
Do
think.
you
for me
sometimes sorry Seymour, I just have a quick follow up on one thing that you just kind of triggered here for me, Josh, is the idea of kind of looking forward and bringing an open mind and stuff like that. And as a CS player, it's kind of felt that Valorant has been claimed by CS players at this stage. And do you think that that window of dominance, we'll call it, is going to be short lived for those people who are, in your mind, not ready to adapt and bring that outside experience? And what do you think is the landscape? How quickly is that going to shift here in the next, probably year, I would imagine?
Yeah, so I think this is what you guys were talking about in like pre-show about the League of Legends player that played 2 years and just got signed to a team, right? I think that's what exists in every game. You have the people that kind of set the meta, and you have people that come in from a different background, and so when I got into CS, I got into CS in 2008, 12 years ago. The amount of times the meta shift and the game has changed drastically in that amount of time, I can't even count. So at every stage, I have to kind of like wire my brain a certain way, and then I learn the game, and then the meta shifts. Like the Astralis comes out, and they're like, "Oh, did you know about these things? No? Well, here you go." And you have to kind of like rewire your brain to kind of incorporate all this new information. So right now, the game's at a certain meta. And if a new kid comes in and he learns this game right now, he can be better than everyone else's at this meta. But I feel like what happened in Counter-Strike to a lot of the people that ended up in Valorant is that they got really good at the meta at the time, that they grinded hard, they got to their place in like a short period of time, relatively. And then when the meta shifted, they couldn't shift with the meta, and then they kind of fell out because they just stayed the same. It's not like they got worse, they just stayed the same. I think Valorant's at the stage right now that we're kind of still developing the current meta, but anybody that comes in the next few months is going to learn everything about how the game's currently played. They're going to get really good at it. They're going to eclipse the people that are currently good at it, but then they're going to get eclipsed down the line. And then it's going to be, are you going to sink or swim? Are you going to catch up?
Right.
Are you going to keep evolving as the game evolves? Or are you going to be one of these people that, ended up going from Counter-Strike to Valorant in recent times? Are you going to be like one of them that you were good at the start of the game, and then, a year or two later, you're like, who?
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that. So I look at the at what you just said as far as like, someone coming into the game, shaking things up, using like all the brain power, focusing 100% on what they're doing. So I'm going to put you in that model. Are you having had all your YouTube content, a lot of famous rants on your YouTube channel about, different strategies about CS, the approach to the game? Would you say that in your mind, the CS door is now shut and you're moving forward? Are you going to be channeling your energy, at least in its current form, all the way into Valorant, or is there still a little bit of CS in the rear view?
There's no CS in the rear view right now. It's like, obviously I have some friends left in the game. I'll, chat with my ex-teammates every now and then about, funny things that are happening, like a certain team losing to a team with a coach. And that's always a nice chuckle.
That's always fun. That's always a good time. Little chats among friends.
But for the most part, yeah, it's in the rear view mirror. I know that, I'd actually be interested to see, like, if someone like the CSPPA went to Valve and is like, okay, all of the players have quit playing the game and they've moved on to Valorant. Are you gonna, like, just kind of be like, oh, you know what, if you have this unwritten thing that you're not going to come back to this game, we'll unban you just for the sake of like having that kind of cleaned off your record, so to speak. I'd be interested to see if that would happen, but right now it's Valorant. Like CS, I've almost completely mentally checked out of it. Like there's nothing there. It was there. I'll remember the memories of it, the good ones mainly. But
until that one day in the shower, you're just like, oh fuck, I remember that. Jesus Christ. Yeah.
But I mean, as much as it can be kind of in the past and that I can be mentally checked out, it's still going to be something that this game, Valorant, is 80% Counter-Strike. I need to recall on these things that I learned from this match or this event or this team or this teammate and apply it. So, you close it off in the form of, I'm not going to go back and be a competitor in that game or like an analyst or commentator or whatever, but there's still like valuable things that I learned from my experiences in that game, and that's always going to be tied with Counter-Strike. So in that respect, it's always going to be there.
I have one more question for you before we let you go. You've been mentioning through the interview someone coming into the game. You're waiting for that person or the phase of Valorant to come in where there's someone who comes in to shake things up, bring a new perspective, have some innovation. And I have to ask, do you think that person is you?
I hope so. We need a full roster, I guess, and then we can really get cracking on it. But the way that people play things, like I'm afraid that as time goes on and we're not playing in events or I'm playing like a lot on stream, I'm afraid that I'm like accidentally slipping out like what I want to do to other people, or like maybe someone on one of these other teams is watching my stream and sees like one of my ideas and I'm like, oops, that I want to save for my team for an event or something like that. And then they're like, maybe we should start doing this. And that actually, one thing happened where a team used Killjoy in a certain way and had like a trap set in a very specific way. And I remember a week prior showing our coach that exact like sort of trap. It was like they use it on one map at a certain place. I use it on another map, but the exact same type of strat or trap setup. And it was linked to me. I'm like, God damn it. I want to be the first one to use that. But yeah, so I want to do it, but I feel like the longer time goes on and the more like I stream and other people get to like kind of read the type of stuff I do, I feel like other people are going to start catching on to it. So I really want to just get into a tournament and get a full roster and then just be like, all right, here it is.
Hey, Moses, I know you're not going to ask any more questions, right?
Okay.
I have one more. I had to cut it before you were going to throw it or whatever. Hey, Josh, I'm not saying you have to break NDAs. I'm not saying you got to name someone you really was going to pick up or you're looking to pick up. I'm just going to ask one simple question. If you in 100 Thieves were to pick up and fill out the rest of this roster, which players would you want?
Yeah.
Ninja. Sorry. Oh, that's
okay, Sibo.
Yeah, I don't know if I can answer that.
Okay, I'm trying.
Well, it's hard to hard to answer it, right? It's hard. Like, what if
it is hard?
What if I say a couple of names right now, and then we don't get those guys, but then we get a couple of other guys who are like, man, I was.
You didn't even want me, man.
Yeah,
exactly.
And they feel like, feel like ass, and then like
there is no
like
way he's answering that question, Valley. But I appreciate the attempt. I mean, I appreciate the attempt. Simo, I'll give you one shot as well. Let's see if you can do better than Valley for your last question.
Okay. All right, I'll take it. I've seen you in and around CS:GO. I'm not personally from the CS:GO scene. I've spent a lot of time in League, but from what I do know about you is that you are probably one of the best galaxy brain thinkers in CS. And like Moses alluded to, you've got a lot of opinions, and you're very opinionated on how the game should be played. I really want to know who has, if anyone, has impressed you outside of mechanics in terms of thinking about the game and thinking about how Valorant should be played. And who would that be? Maybe it's a coach. Doesn't have to be a player. It could be an analyst. Like, who's just impressed you on how they think about the game?
I haven't had a chance to like really speak to people about it in that way, outside of my current teammates and coach, because I just don't like sharing that type of stuff. I was watching like Sean Garrett's stream, for example, when he was doing like one of the watch parties for a tournament, and like I think he has a good read on the game, and I also like how he looked at Counter-Strike. So because I already liked him in Counter-Strike, I don't even know if that qualifies as impressed. The
Yeah.
problem is I haven't spoken to anyone, so it's hard to answer that. All I've seen is what I've seen from tournaments, and if people have other ideas, they're not doing them. So that's what I'm basing it off of. In terms of impressing, though, I'd need to speak to someone, and I don't want to share my ideas with them. So
Still
Yeah,
not
that's
impressed
fair.
by anyone
That's
in
fair.
Valorant that says everyone else is bad. That's what we got out of this. That's what we got out of this interview. So obviously,
Clip it and ship it.
I'll give you a little bit of time to get to know all these things. We'll say a week or so. I'm sure would be fine. So
Yeah,
that should do it.
Same time next
Yeah, same time next week. We'll chat it. We'll touch base with you when you're in. So we're gonna let you go. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us, Steele. I cannot wait to see what 100 Thieves shapes up to be. I hope you find the rest of your roster, and we can't wait to see you in competition. I'm sure you can't wait to be in competition. So congratulations again. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Cool. Thanks.